Welcome to this afternoon's panel. This is part of the Summer Adtech series. It's been happening over the last few days, and today's panel is hosted by Union, who are the strategic partners to thousands of local market publishers. And it's my pleasure as the founder of The Digital Voice to work with Union and the team, and we host events on this platform. So before I welcome to stage our panelists and our moderator, Stephen Filler, I just wanted to give you some housekeeping and explain how it works, because it's quite unique. On the right-hand side, you'll see chat. So you can chat with any of the participants, and also with us, you'll see Natalie and Casey from The Digital Voice in there. Natalie's just said hello. Participants, if you click that button, you'll be able to see all the participants. If you can even interact directly with those, there's a little icon for connect and message them, or there's a LinkedIn. And the final one is Q&A. Interactive Q&A, ask as many questions as you like, and you can also then vote on the order of which the questions are asked. Following on from the panel, after 40 minutes, this is where it gets exciting. The panelists and yourselves will all join at the tables, and there's tables of up to 8, and you can move around different tables. All you have to do is double click on a table and turn your cam on and mic on, and that's from your bottom panel, and you'll see tile view to make the heads pop up bigger. Each one of our panelists will be around to answer questions. They'll be in different rooms, named after bars in Cannes, so you'll feel like you're at home. And do stay, enjoy, and interact with those panelists. And looking after the panelists today, I'm delighted to welcome to stage the MD of Union, Stephen Filler. Looking after everything today. Stephen, welcome.
Thank you.
Good. I'm now going to leave it in your safe hands. This is an incredibly well attended. Lots of people have registered into it. I think we're up to about 150, and it's probably because everybody wants to hear what the future leaders of video advertising have to say. And so I'm now going to hand over to you to welcome those panelists who are going to join you and tell us what they think. So I'll join you back again in 40 minutes time.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining the session today. Little intro to Union for those who don't know. So it's, as Julia said, we're a joint venture between 5 EMEA based video companies who each provide video services, content, technology and monetization to local market publishers. Union's role is to bring all of those capabilities together to make it easy for multi-market advertisers to activate campaigns, but still knowing they're going to be on sites that really matter to that audience. So hence the topic today is going to be predominantly obviously around video, but with a publisher lens, but feel free to ask any questions as difficult as you want. And so today's session is, as Julia said, is titled The Future Video Leaders, and we really wanted a session that was going to be just to allow for you guys to hear from some new voices, so some fresh perspectives. And we are delighted today to have a great panel, a couple of which I've worked with in the past and can confirm how wonderful they are. But if I can invite to the stage now Shachi De Silva from Mindshare, Jordan Mullings from Captify, and Jahanzeb Alvi from Essence. Welcome everyone. Hopefully everyone is connected.
Hello, hello.
So far so good. So wanted to say thank you for all taking the time, guys. Really appreciate it. I'm going to in a second ask you all to just introduce yourselves, but just to the participants, to the viewers, I'm going to kind of cut to questions as often as I can throughout, so please feel free to fire through as you go. We'll take your questions throughout the session and at the end. So let's start with some intros from you guys. So perhaps in order, Shachi, Jordan, Jahanzeb, do you want to tell us, give us a little intro?
Sure. Hi, so I'm Shachi. I'm an account director at Mindshare. I started off in digital straight out of uni. So I used to be back home in Sydney working initially in a PPC agency and then a programmatic agency. And then I've been working at Mindshare since I moved to London. I'm currently across a portfolio of clients, including Volvo, Tourism New Zealand, Nike and Dyson, predominantly focusing on dig, as I mentioned, with a slight focus on print as well.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah. Firstly, thank you for putting the panel together, Steve, and thank you for bringing me along. I feel like it's a good topic to have now. Yes, I'm Jordan. I'm a campaign strategy manager and video lead at Captify. Just for context on who Captify are, we're the global leader of search intelligence, and we collect on-site consumer search data, which powers both insights and media activation across video and display campaigns. So currently, I oversee the outcomes of Captify's video campaigns within the UK programmatic trading team. I've been supporting the transformation and growth of Captify's video products, and Captify brought some really exciting work into the video space recently, and not just qualifying scalable top of the funnel audiences based on search behavior, but also launching market innovations like dynamic video search, dynamic video powered by search even. But prior to that, I started my career at Havas Media before heading to the video platform Teeds, and then working briefly at a video production platform called CNET. So definitely aiming to get that full 360 experience of video from production to delivery.
Perfect. Thank you.
Cool. Hi, I'm Jahanzeb. I'm digital commercial director at Essence. Just like Shachi, I joined digital media straight out of uni almost 11 years ago. I was on supplier side before, selling digital ad space. Then I had a brief stint at AOL, which is now Verizon. And then in 2014, I joined Essence. I joined Essence when it was independent. And since then, it's now part of WPP, Group M. So it's been quite a ride. And I'm very excited to be on this panel. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. So really nice cross-section of experience. So let's dive in. And I guess I wanted to start with the obvious rise of some new innovative platforms. So clearly TikTok, Instagram TV get a lot of attention in the trade press and in the market, and there's some great innovation coming out of those businesses. So I just wanted to start maybe, Jahanzeb, just on where are those businesses at in terms of being part of the mainstream? Are they there yet, or is clients still testing?
They're definitely on track to be mainstream. Like at Essence, we are a very data and measurement led agency, so we test and learn. We have to evaluate what's the lay of the land. Again, as you said, that these apps are innovating at such breakneck speed that there's no one size fits all, or you can just stick to one way of working for 18 months. It's just they're constantly evolving. So again, it's a test and learn environment, understanding the risk, understanding the limitations, understanding the change they're implementing, and then finding the right balance on how to deliver business outcomes for our clients.
And
it's on the other side, I've seen like there are some advertisers who are very brave, who just jump on platforms straight up, and they don't care about measurement, and they're like, well, let's get a share of voice first, let's make sure we are there, and then they look onto measurement and things like that later on.
And do they jump in early just because that they're interested and they want to learn? What sort of drives that behavior?
There's definitely a bit of a bandwagon element as well, that hey, that's a new thing, let's be on it. It might go big, or what's the worst that could happen? It's going to go bust, so what? A lot of digital platforms have disappeared, and frankly, no one cares about them anymore. So it's just making sure, having the first mover advantage, being there, connecting early with whoever the demographics of that platform is. So just being there, being the first through the door.
Yeah, makes sense. And a question to anyone, I guess, is assuming that these platforms continue to grow, which, let's face it, they are. Where does that budget come from? Like where in terms of where that shift is, that shifting from other social platforms? Is it publishers? Is it somewhere else? What's the view?
I think firstly, in terms of whether or not they become mainstream, I think we have to also consider the context in which we're in at the moment, and we have been for the last few months. So, for example, with TikTok, I think it's seen a real rise in adoption because, I mean, at the end of the day, we are all stuck at home and we need entertainment. So I think it will be interesting to see whether that continues or not. From a budget perspective, I do think that they sit within kind of a mid-tier section on a media plan. So I think it could come most definitely from social, but I think it could also come from the likes of PR or influencer budgets, depending on what we are trying to achieve on the platform, and kind of to Jan's point, depending on what targeting and what measures they put into place on the platform as well.
I think that,
yeah, I think,
go.
sorry, definitely a good shout that it depends on what we're trying to achieve on those platforms. There are multiple sources from where there will be some losers. Some money will move into these platforms. So again, it could be PR, it could be even content as well. Again, influencers as well. If you look at the very basic like media, whether it's video, ads, or things like that, then I think publishers will take a hit. I think that primarily that spending will move from the publishing world, and then obviously a bit from the social space as well, looking at all the performance and stuff. But yes, it's too early to really pinpoint and say that, oh, they're about to eat someone's lunch. But it's as Shachi very like rightly mentioned, that there's a lot of things up in the air, and it can go multiple ways.
I was just going to add on to Shachi's point on, we're seeing a big surge because of the climate we're in right now, which is lockdown. So I'd question the longevity of these platforms. Considering the share of attention of younger demographics can change really dramatically, and we've seen that with historic social platforms. It'd be interesting to see whether brands can keep up with where their audiences are and which platforms they're gonna be on. Yeah,
that makes sense. And so I guess with that in mind, and if we sort of flip to with a publisher lens, clearly it's going to be more competitive for publishers, and it's been, let's face it, it's been a tough couple of years anyway. And the recent sort of COVID pandemic has been a challenge, but my personal view is I think it's put a good lens on publishers in terms of helping people understand their importance, from an advertising perspective, but also from a society perspective and the value they place. But in your mind, as I suppose people controlling plans and budgets, what do publishers need to do to succeed for H2 2021 and 2020 and beyond? So
I think you raise a good point, that because again, the context of COVID, everyone is focusing a lot more on publishers, and a lot of our time as consumers is spent looking at various publisher content. I think from a buying perspective, there's a few things that they need to consider. I think the first is considering brand suitability. So when looking at different publisher websites, it's important to understand what content we're appearing near, and also understanding the user's mindset. And what I mean by that is, sorry if I keep referencing COVID, but taking COVID as an example, very early on, I think we were all very quick to jump on the bandwagon of saying that it needs to be a negative keyword. We don't want to appear new content about death rates and people getting ill and all of that. But as the situation developed, a lot more pieces coming out around sports or around positive news stories. And depending on your brand, you don't necessarily not want to be associated with that. So I think publishers need to develop tools to better assess brand suitability. I think something else they need to look at is data integration. So especially from a video point of view, kind of moving into a cookieless world and things like that, publishers have a real, strength in that they are able to own a lot of their own data. But when we bring that down to a targeting level, especially if you have either niche targeting or in the context of video where supply is really limited compared to display, how do we make sure that we're still maximizing out our reach to reach as many relevant people as possible? So I think projects like the Ozone Project are quite good in that they bring together different publishers and kind of look at a mosaic of buyers across various platforms to make sure that we're reaching a quality audience in a relevant context, but at scale.
Makes sense. Anyone got anything additional on that in terms of the, I suppose what publishers can be doing more of to thrive?
Yeah, I would say so. From Captify's perspective, publishers make up a lot of our success, and they play a big role in that. And we onboard them for data, and we also leverage their suppliers. So it's definitely in our interest to make sure that they're thriving. I think what they can do to thrive further is to hold on to the attention of their current and future consumers, by being ahead of the game in terms of consumer trends and what readers want to read at that moment. So in return, this helps to ensure they have healthy levels of traffic and supply to manage. So I'd say, publishers need to engage with data providers to allow them to understand content consumption behavior of their readers. If you look at, a massive event right now, which is not COVID, so I'll talk about a different event. It's, and it's an event that they can react on, which is Black Lives Matter. Right now, publishers have a clear opportunity to create more purposeful content with the intent to educate. And we've always, questioned the integrity of tabloid journalism because of either racial biases or fake news. And this has a massive share of UK inventory and UK attention as well. And Black Lives Matter is a movement that has become the biggest social movement in history. And the recurring theme of action to take is to educate. So we're seeing consumers search more around podcasts, forums, and shows to be able to educate themselves on this movement, and people want to be involved. So I think publishers should begin to take a more ethical approach to the content that they create. Also, given the reach that they have, make use of it, make more meaningful use of it. So I still think there's a lot of hope for publishers to connect further with their readers and ensuring they thrive as well.
Nice, yeah, I agree. And I guess, and maybe this is sort of from with an agency perspective, but I often wonder, sort of for some publishers, just how difficult it is to really engage with their day-to-day planner buyers who have grown up using, sort of social tools and products, and I suppose, how well do you think publishers are managing to engage with your teams to help bring to life their value proposition?
I think publishers already do a really good job. Like obviously, on the agency side, they are getting approached by a million vendors at the same time, and obviously, there's that everyone is just trying to get some of your time and attention. So it's not the best of experience, but if honestly someone looks at it, obviously with the partners every agency works with, I think the engagement is good. It's proactive, and frankly, I think like publishers, they already go the extra mile. It's if you look at the platforms, obviously they're a very different business. They work in a very different way. They don't have reps like proactively reaching out because that's the only way to make sale. With platforms, they have a more of a pull strategy, like a lot of brands, like small advertisers, are naturally attracted towards going out to platforms. I think D2C brands are a really good example where, you would see a D2C brand being launched on Instagram or via YouTube. So, So again, platforms has a more of a pull strategy. People gravitate towards that, and naturally for efficiencies and stuff like that. But I think for better partnerships, custom content, bespoke campaigns, creative strategy, all of that, I think the publishing world really shines over there.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. And actually, we've got our first kind of top voted question. So I'm going to go to the Q&A early, which is an open question, which is around what video innovation has really stood out to you in I guess in kind of the recent sort of 6 to 12 months. So video innovations that have grabbed you.
I don't mind jumping in on that one. I mean, outside of Captify, I'll shed light on another video product. I have to shed light on Good Loop, which was founded by Amy Williams, and Amy Williams and her team looked at innovating an ad product that basically allowed users to engage with their product, and if engaged, they would have the option to actually donate ad spend of that particular ad to a charity of their choice. And I think this is really ethical and meaningful advertising. I think we need to see probably more of this in market. But I would say that's probably one of my favorite kind of video innovations of the last year or so.
Very nice.
I think as well, in kind of going back to what Jordan was saying about attention, Playground XYZ really recently have launched a video product which essentially changes the video and changes the length depending on what they know about the user. So I could get a 15-second ad, but you could get 6, and it's all based on making sure that you are actually watching the ad in full and you are being attentive and the brand's being seen, but you're also having a positive user experience. And I think that ties really nicely with how suppliers and publishers can work together to kind of make it a better user experience.
Nice, good examples.
Yeah, I have to give a shout out to a small, like more of a creative tech company called Seen This. So they use video streaming technology with the likes of Netflix. Like no matter how bad your internet is, the video experience is really smooth. So I think that's a really cool way of either delivering better quality videos into ads.
Yeah, I think just to jump on that as well, Jahanzeb, I think people often forget how important it is to ensure consumers have a great ad experience. I think if you have a poor ad experience, it's you're gonna lose affinity to consumers will lose affinity to both brand and publisher. So just ensuring you have strong ad experiences, so it's so important.
Absolutely.
And when you think about those ad experiences, then kind of moving more into measurement, kind of, what are the key metrics that your clients and your businesses are using to gauge success of video campaigns?
I mean, I think from an agency point of view, at the end of the day, you want your client has made a video, you want it to be seen, you want it to be hopefully heard. So I think views, completed views in a viewable environment will always have their place on a media plan. But I don't really think that it's enough to just optimize towards views. I think we need to consider kind of two main things. The first being the context or the environment in which the video is being shown. So having an outstream video on a publisher site versus YouTube versus Facebook, view in all of these environments is calculated so vastly different that if you want to measure the success of your overall video campaign, it's quite hard to find that point of comparability. So I think there needs to be some work done to kind of come up with a consensus of if we're doing a cross-platform video buy, what is our measure of baseline success at least? And I think that's more of an industry discussion. But I also think it's important to look at metrics in accordance to your media plans and your clients. So I mentioned previously that Volvo is one of my clients and they're very performance focused. So we don't often do that much video work. When we do though, they're really intent on seeing how it ladders up to the overall objective as well as to other performance driving channels, whether that be display or paid search. So the likes of Comcast, for example, have a DR product, which means that yes, the ad's being seen, but it's also directly optimizing to the actions on site, which we want users to take. And it just means that within an overall media plan, we're able to better understand how video fits into it and whether it is actually leading to actions for change or actions for purchase for a client.
I agree on that. I think before jumping onto metrics, it is very important to understand the experience and the environment. They're equally important. Video is a premium product. It comes with a premium price tag as well. So again, there's not much supply. Demand is to the roof. So why not really make sure that this is done correctly? Again, as Jordan mentioned previously as well, it's all about experiencing and making sure that customers don't lose the affinity. It's if someone is running a video ad on a page which already has an outstream ad, a sticky masthead, and you scroll down and the video player kind of chases you down scrolling with you, it's just not the best experience. It's like, why should someone pay 20 plus pound CPM for a video like that, which is already in a cluttered environment? We have seen some data where we have strong reasons to believe that the more cluttered the environment is, the less impact it has on the brand. So yeah, again, environment is very important to understand. If someone is looking for completion rates or a high AWOC score, then frankly, Facebook is not the best place to go to. So it's, again, understanding which environment they're running the video in and what the definitions are within that environment. Again, the topic is up for debate for the industry, but whatever we have available right now, we can just have our own definition internally to make sure that if we are paying a certain price, then that price is justified for that experience.
Yeah, makes sense. And Jordan, as I guess Captify business grounded in data, sort of any examples of how your clients are, or how you're applying data for your video campaigns?
Yeah, I think I guess to go back to Shachi's point around video, showing some level of return, and being a bit more accountable within DR, or so within overall media plans.
Yeah.
We've seen more brands take on more full funnel strategies. I think that's to ensure they're driving a more longer lasting impact on their consumer. And this is a purely data fueled strategy at Captify. So the way it works is, like, before a campaign goes live, we build out a robust audience profile built based on consumer insights and who in the moment is most likely to engage with the ad. And then these qualified audiences are used at first within a upper funnel strategy. And then those audiences who then engage with the ad are made into scalable segments to re-engage and fuel future plans. And the emphasis should be on the scale, because I think as everyone's kind of mentioned already, we see higher quality expectations within video. There's higher ad fraud, there's brand safety concerns. Viewability is so important because we want to maximize awareness. And when you begin to take those considerations into when you consider those factors, naturally reach is hindered. So scale is so important when activating these audience segments. But as a brand brings the consumer further down the funnel, they set up the opportunity to then target them with a more performance-driven format, like a shoppable unit, or be part of an audience strategy for a DR campaign to support driving conversions. So we see video acting as a storytelling medium to start plans, and then the insights derived from its activity should inform future strategies. And something we champion at Captify is, and I think something we encourage all kind of buyers to champion, is ensuring there's no wastage of data. And on top of that, data is also being used to fuel creative strategies as well.
Okay, interesting. And Shachi, you mentioned creative as well in your example. I guess in terms of how important video creative is, and how good a job are clients and their creative agencies doing at sort of adapting to that requirement.
Well, I think creative is immensely important in media in general, but especially in video. You're requesting more time and more attention from a consumer than you are with almost any other advertising format, bar perhaps kind of interactive unit. So I think creative is immensely important. Unfortunately, I don't really think it gets the attention it necessarily deserves at the moment for video. I think oftentimes we're still seeing cut downs of TVCs, maybe only one or two variations of creative. And I think what that does is your mindset when you're watching a TV program is very different to your mindset when you're online. And even further, kind of depending on where you're being served this video, what you're expecting to see and how you will react changes. If I'm on YouTube, I'm very much in that video watching mindset, and an ad might not bother me as much as if I'm reading an article, and to Jan's point before, there's just an ad following me around trying to play a video. So I think creative is really important, but I don't really think the correct kind of context, and I don't think even devices, I think with the rise of certain social media platforms, vertical video has become a bit more prominent, but to the full kind of scale that we should be getting vertical videos with every video brief, essentially, I really don't think that currently exists. So I think there is room for improvement there. And I do think that comes from testing as well. When you are getting kind of a cut down TVC, you're probably not getting as many variations as you would if you were making videos specifically for digital. But I guess there's budget and kind of time frame constraints with that as well. So yeah.
Yeah. So what changes that? Because that's been the case for a while, hasn't it? Let's face it. You know, we've talked about the 30-second TVC for a while being the default, but in your mind, as people kind of, I guess, you know, on the ground running teams, you know, how do you change this?
I think it's being involved further up in the planning process. So not getting a brief and saying, oh, we only have a 30-second TVC, what can you do with it? It's actually saying, we know as your agency that you have these regular briefs come out throughout the year. We know that you usually have video on these kind of briefs. Will that still be the case? If that's the case, these are the kind of strategies we'll most likely put forward. Please, can you consider making X, Y, Z as well? Or can you consider doing these kind of cut downs which feature like this aspect of your product or service? So I think that's really where you can drive change, being involved earlier on, because if you're just sitting there when we get the final brief from the client, there's not much that can be done because a lot of it has already been wrapped up.
Yeah. And I guess, Jahanzeb, do you see that being more or less of an issue with sort of, I guess, with global brands versus, you know, global versus UK campaigns, or just in general, you know, what do you see as the different challenges between the sort of the global versus sort of local video campaign?
I think it's if you're talking from a supply acquisition point of view, we've run global campaigns from our London office, so activation is not a problem, but I think it's more of a supply issue. Like the quality supply is really missing out there in the open marketplace. Like I've been in audits. We did a deep dive of Open Exchange, and there was tons of video, so there was no shortage of video. But when we looked at the video, they were all like on pirated content, gaming websites and betting websites, and in banner video. So again, it's really difficult to find like a large player size click-to-play video, like a YouTube type video, and I think that's where there's a bottleneck. And in regards to measurement, obviously the DSPs and both SSP sides are all integrated with third-party vendors. So whoever you're using for measurement, brand safety, viewability, all of that comes standard. But I think it's more about locally and globally just finding the right quality for your ads.
Okay, we've got another clear leader on the Q&A, so I feel we should give it a look. So, as future leaders of video, what change would you make, or kind of one innovation you'd like to see in the video space? Anyone?
I'll start with that. Obviously, I want to see more content out there. Again, we started off with TikTok, IGTV. Again, these are all video-based apps. So what I would really like to see is publishers, editorial teams really committing to video content, and there's tons of talent on the publishing side. When we sit down, discuss bespoke content partnerships, all of that stuff, we are blown away by their creative studios, by all of that. But when it comes down to actually producing video content and or showing data in a different way, like again, if you look at the COVID, yes, there was tons of data out there. Google had their own thing, NHS had their own thing, but it's like, yeah, there's a data and stats, but who's really who's good at storytelling? And I think that's what's missing. So I would really like to see publishers, and especially the editorial teams, committing to video storytelling and bringing that to the forefront. I really look forward to that.
Nice. Any other comments on?
I think from an advertising point of view, it kind of ties in with that, but I think having a less cluttered space, essentially, and I don't mean in terms of partners, I mean in terms of when we're on different websites or platforms consuming content, having it to be less cluttered. So just taking a bit more consideration, kind of like the brand suitability point I was talking about before, to make sure that not only is your content editorially fit for the person who's viewing it, but the ads that you're showing on that page editorially also align with the overall content and the user kind of characteristics. I think that just lends itself to a much cleaner user experience, and it will probably have users align with brands more easily when you're not seeing 100 ads on a page, and when the ad is completely aligned with the content it's next to.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it should be a no-brainer, really, that you would want a website that people are going to come back to. But I guess it's been a tough time for publishers, and they need to find ways to make money. And actually, the next question that's high up the list from the Q&A relates to this, I guess. And if anyone feels like taking it, which is around the Facebook boycott. I'm not going to ask anyone too much sort of from a controversy perspective, but I guess it's does anyone, where do we think that's sustainable, and is there a good chance that could flow back to publishers if they do the right things, the publishers, that is?
From my perspective, I think this is a good opportunity for other platforms, independent platforms, to, I guess, latch on and show value that they can give to brands that are boycotting Facebook. And I think that's the kind of key thing to consider for companies like Captify and other platforms.
Yeah, I think as well, hopefully it causes change within Facebook. I think the reach of Facebook is so large that hopefully until they kind of change their stance on these issues, I don't know, hopefully the boycott forces them to change their stance, but I do think that in the interim, money will flow to other areas. I'm not sure if it would all necessarily flow to publishers or if it would flow to different social platforms. I think that would depend on the overall campaign objectives and audiences which they're trying to reach. But I definitely think that that money will flow to other places.
Yeah, I agree. It's a capitalist, democratic marketplace. Someone's loss is someone's win. So it's all about how publishers play their cards.
I also think post-COVID, a lot of clients are only just starting to pick up advertising, and I don't necessarily know if they can suddenly just pull all of that budget back again when they need to really cut through to the consumer after being offline for so many months.
Yeah, makes sense. And I guess on that front, thinking about kind of, I suppose, post-COVID, we're now in what's officially the first day of the second half of the year. Any, I guess, based on your visibility of your advertisers and your clients, give us some positive news for H2, things we should think we can look forward to.
So from my side, I think, as Shachi alluded to, we're going to see buyers spending more. I read a stat recently around a survey from IAB saying that 56% of buyers are looking to increase their spends in H2 compared to last H2, and that's reassuring to hear when you work in buying. I think we're already seeing verticals like automotive come back and start to spend more. So yeah, there's definitely going to be a good revival in H2, which is great.
I think there'll be more considered buying practices as well. So in terms of what content we're against, but also what kind of data we're using, what kind of messages we're putting out there, I think it will hopefully be a lot more considered than we might have been kind of pre this time.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I think the first half of the year has been quite negative. A lot of us would like to forget about it. So I think moving on, there'll be, I think brands would like to be associated with a lot more positive news out there. There will be a lot more positive messaging, and so there's definitely H2, I think, will be much more healthier compared to how this year has been. And obviously, a lot of the events got postponed. Everything has been postponed and pushed forward. So things will pick up. Absolutely. I think on the flip side, I think this COVID has allowed some clients to be like, hey, we've been spending tons of money in advertising and marketing for the past 5 years, you know, and now we have a time and space where everything was just stopped. So has our marketing really worked over the past 5 years, or do we still need to, you know, change our tactics or continue? Or so this has been, I wouldn't call it an equalizer, but it's given some brands reality check of, you know, where their brand truly stands in the minds of consumers. So yeah, going forward, yes, some will really compete. Just like the last financial crisis, it gave birth to a lot of new companies, a lot of the smaller companies which came in and started chipping market share from the big boys. So yeah, I'm excited, and I think come Q4, if we're still on the positive trend, it's going to be a very exciting Q4.
Yeah, I agree. I think everyone's ready for some good news. So I think in a minute we're going to invite Julia back to ask any other questions that she's either spotted or has for the group. Here she is.
Hello, thank you very much. And do you know what? I love seeing so many questions coming in from the audience. So I have to ask these to you because I think it's important that these are obviously topics that the guys want to discuss in our audience. So first question, which are the best platforms for completion rates? I'm going to pick up. Stephen, you answer this first.
Oh. Well, I think completion rates, as we know, obviously relate to the length of content. We've talked about creative and its importance, but you know, I think it also then relates to the quality and focus of the content. I think completion rate is a really good indicator of user engagement with the ad, that they didn't dislike the ad, they stayed with it, and they wanted to get to the content. So you know, I think you know, we're continuing to see, I think kind of in many different environments it's possible to deliver really strong completion rates. But I think going back to some of the points that the panelists have made, it's just about taking a smart, tailored approach to the context, the environment, the audience, the moment that they're in.
And would any of the panelists want to call out any particular platform? I'm putting you on the spot. You could say they're all brilliant, or you can name and shame, but is there anyone that stands out? Or do you agree with Stephen that it's actually far more not about the platform, but about the content and creative?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about the environment. If the consumer understands the value exchange of the ad and the content, they will absolutely watch the ad to its full length. So naturally, you'll find a high completion rate in a platform and environment that offers that clear value exchange. So yeah, go with that.
I think that's actually quite a positive spin, because it means you don't have to be one of the largest platforms in the world in order to just perform and do well. Another question from Hugh. Thank you for this, Hugh. How do you think we will measure success in future video campaigns? And I know you touched on metrics, but what's your thoughts on how we will do it in the future and measure in the future?
I think I think it's already been mentioned, but we need to look beyond completed views as well. And post engagement, you know, there is opportunities to measure success based on what users do post view. So one thing we look at Captify is looking at search uplift. So search uplift is looking at how products and brands, you know, influence ad recall or prompt some level of action. You know, it can sometimes be a precursor to making a sale as well. So you could look at, so some of the brand studies that we do at Captify is looking at how exposed users to an ad search versus non-exposed users to an ad. And if we see that, you know, a user is 3 times more likely to search for a particular brand because they've been exposed to an ad, that's another measurement of success. So I think there's other ways of looking beyond complete views as measuring effectiveness as well.
Perfect. And I'm just going to go through some other questions, right, just because there's so many here. And this one came up, we got 4 votes on this. sadly, a high proportion of junior people in the industry are the ones who've been the worst hit from being furloughed or made redundant. Is that fair? And more importantly, what should this sort of new generation of our future leaders do in order to ensure that they bounce back? Is there anything that they can do? Are there any motivational points you can give? There may well be attendees that have been furloughed or worse, been made redundant. Any thought, any pieces of nuggets of wisdom, or is it fair?
I think in terms of what you can do, I think one of the more positive things to come out of this from our industry is that basically everyone has made all of their trainings and all of their certifications free. So I think especially if you are a junior member, I know when I first started out, it was mandatory that I did all of these certifications. So I think now is kind of a good time to get those done. And depending on what you're interested in as well, you can tailor which certifications you do. And I think that just sets you up in good stead for when opportunities do start to arise.
That's perfect. And I'm aware of time, so I'm just going to amalgamate a number of these questions into one. As a parting shot, just kind of video advertising, something a bit to complete this panel that's a standout for you or a hope for the future. If you just take it in order. Stephen, do you want to go first?
No,
you go last.
Oh, should I go first?
Yeah, you go first.
Oh, sorry, I don't know which order it's in.
I know, I'm looking at the screen. We're probably looking at different parts.
I guess in terms of my hope is similar to what I said before, that ads are more considered, people, it's less cluttered, and we're focusing on really grabbing, but not only grabbing, maintaining a consumer's attention so that whatever the message is that we're putting out there is actually absorbed and acted upon.
Perfect. Johan?
I think video, there's still a lot to be done. I think dynamic video is something that there's a lot more to be done. There's a lot of room for improvement in it. So that's something I'm excited about. And I think that will be something that will truly add value to the advertising ecosystem.
Perfect. Jordan?
I'll take a step away from video, but I think something that could also add to the advertising ecosystem is just ensuring we have a more diverse pipeline of talent coming into an industry and more opportunities like this, I think, to definitely diversify the voices on these sorts of platforms. You know, our industry plays a role in marketing to diverse audiences. So I think we can do it better with a workforce that actually reflects who we're communicating to as well. So I think that's what I'd like to see kind of be focused on going forward.
Perfect, thank you. And Stephen, final word with you before we go to tables.
It's a really nice place to end. I think it is kind of, that's one of the reasons we wanted to run the session today, to hear some new voices. And I think, assuming, as we all think, that you guys are the video leaders of the future, it feels like we're in very safe hands. So I think you've been great. Thank you very much for contributing. And I hope everyone does take the chance to hang around afterwards and ask these guys some even more challenging questions around some tables.
Perfect. And on that, because this is an opportunity, and those questions that we haven't managed to get to, do ask these guys on the floor in the rooms. I'm going to press stop in a minute and we're going to come off stage. You'll see a floor plan. You'll see lots of tables. You'll see little heads on there. Simply double click on any table, press your cam on, mic on, and you'll be launched to table. When you're in the table, there's a little icon that says tile view that makes the heads pop up bigger, and back to floor. Do stay, do interact. Thank you to the panelists, and we'll see you at the tables now. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.